Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis and John. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Just finished a great interview. Who do we have on today?
Josh Wyland.
Yeah. He is a purple belt under Craig Jones at the B team in Austin, Texas. Former high-level collegiate wrestler, national state champ. Lots of accolades when it comes to wrestling. And, man, this conversation is so good. It's cool talking to someone that is, you know, not a black belt, is an average everyday guy, but is trying to make his dreams come true through jiu-jitsu. It's a great conversation.
Yeah, it sounds like he's living his dream right now.
Yeah.
It's
What
nice.
are some stuff we covered today, John?
He talks about high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners, what it feels like to walk into a room. You can imagine your favorite people, and then all of a sudden you're in there with them. Like, how does that feel? He talks about the time he puts in, working, moving, recovering from injuries. You can get a lot out of this.
Yeah, it's really good. I didn't want the whole conversation to be about B team, but I think there's a lot of value that can come from training with such high-level guys, especially if you're listening at home and you're thinking about becoming a full-time competitor or you want to do something similar. It's a very good conversation, especially going through a big injury like he had with his elbow, and then, it almost put a stop to him moving to Austin, but he still pursued what he wanted to. So funny guy. You could definitely tell Craig Jones is rubbing off on him. He's hilarious, lots of jokes. He really doesn't take very much seriously at the first start of his answer, but then he goes into it. So
yeah, I think he had lots of good details and probably some inspiration for some newer practitioners.
Yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy this. If you guys want to go follow Josh, everything's going to be down in the description below. Be sure to check out our sponsors down in the description below, the pinned comment on YouTube. Show if you guys want to support, the best way to do it is probably by supporting us through our sponsors. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. John, you got anything else?
Nope. Enjoy the listen.
Thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home, and let us know what you guys think. DM us on Instagram or Facebook. So we'll catch you later, guys. Peace.
Welcome, everyone. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement. But this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using code ETP20 to get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com.
The Beard Hedger Pro Kit comes with a titanium-coated T-blades that are tough on the hair but smooth on the face, laid in a single-stroke efficiency that's satisfaction at one stroke at a time. I think these beard trimmer is phenomenal. They don't pull on my beard. They cut nice and smooth. It's one of the biggest game changers for my facial cleaning and regimen that I have introduced. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I gotta say it. I love it. It's very precise.
Yeah.
I like the way I can get it as trimmed up and as clean lines. I really enjoy that. Save 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game. Are you tired of waking up tired? Well, your pillow probably sucks, but it doesn't have to. I'd like to introduce you to Mummy, a bedding brand that is revolutionizing the sleep game with their innovative 6-chamber pillow. Their patented 6-chamber design secures the filling in place so their pillow never becomes lopsided or loses support. It also features a breathable mesh to keep you cool throughout the night.
A better and more productive you starts with a better sleep. Go to mummy.com and use code ELBOWSTIGHT for 15% off and free shipping. That's MVMI sleep.com and use code ELBOWSTIGHT for 15% off and free shipping. With free shipping and free returns, there's no reasons not to try it.
Let me give you some experience with the pillow. So for one, I've had a pillow that I've been using for 20 years. I know it sounds disgusting, but my entire household fights over my pillow. So we got this Mummy pillow in, and I got to tell you, I love it. It's cool for one, and that's a big issue for me. I hate a hot pillow.
Yep.
You know, like you'd wake up throughout the night and you're flipping the thing. I love this pillow. I love the support. And, I don't get much sleep with jiu-jitsu being late and work. So I really appreciate anything I can get my hands on that's going to improve my sleep quality.
Also, it doesn't feel like when I put my head down on the pillow, I'm getting caught up in a rear naked choke with the pillow just surrounding my head and whatnot. It's literally the most comfortable pillow I've ever used. I absolutely love it, and I could not recommend it more. Sleep is the most important part of your recovery from jiu-jitsu, and with Mummy, they definitely have stepped my sleep game up quite a bit.
With free shipping and free returns, there's no reason to not try it out. Get 15% off your order at mvmisleep.com when you use code ELBOWSTIGHT. That's 15% off when you use code ELBOWSTIGHT. Sleep ambitiously with Mummy.
Josh, how's it going today, man?
Doing good. How you doing, man?
We are doing fantastic. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. I had my cup of coffee. John, did you have coffee this morning?
I've had about 5 cups.
No.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
Man.
We had a sleepover last
that.
night, so there's 7 or 8 kids in my house right now. So.
You need that? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I have like maybe 3 a week, but I might jump up to that schedule and start hitting 5 a day.
3 a week?
Yeah, I don't drink a lot of coffee, honestly.
Wow, that's
not a lot,
impressive.
Right? 3 a week, that's not a lot.
No, I think I drink like 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I should clarify. It's not 5 a day for me. It's just 5 in the morning. I'll have a couple more at lunch and before we train.
Not only that, I'll drink like an energy drink. I'll have like some our amino stuff which has caffeine in it.
Right.
I just like that, just nonstop. Just all day. But that's what happens when you have kids. I mean, you're a young guy. I remember those days of not having kids, and now that I do, I need every bit of help I can get.
I believe it.
Same.
So, hey, but let's go ahead and jump into who you are for the people that don't know who you are at home and kind of your background, how you got into jiu-jitsu and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yes, my name's Josh. I started wrestling when I was 4th grade. I'm 24 now, so I was wrestling for about 14 years. Wrestled out my whole entire life. I ended up going and wrestling about 2 years D1 at Virginia Tech. And after 2 years of wrestling, I went into jiu-jitsu. And I fell in love with jiu-jitsu pretty quickly because it was kind of like wrestling, but I could choke people and try and break limbs. So I was like, okay, something new, something fresh. And so I started training jiu-jitsu for about 2 years, and then I heard about the B team and heard about all these guys out here, and I wanted to be a world champion myself. So I was like, well, at the time I had a girlfriend, and I still have a girlfriend, the same girlfriend, and I told her, I was like, we're going to Austin, Texas, babe, and so pack your bags, relieve me.
How was that transition going from wrestling to jiu-jitsu? Did you feel like it was pretty natural?
It was super natural until I started running into leg locks. Yeah, like between white and blue belt, all the tournaments I was entering, I was pretty much crushing them. Winning Nagas, New Breeds, all these tournaments like around the local area. And then once I started getting to higher level and started running into leg locks, I was like, oh, this isn't natural anymore. I'm not familiar with this world. So I'd say it was natural. And so, I started to venture into the higher levels. And then I was like, okay, I need to start learning a lot higher level technique.
Yeah, start plugging those holes in the game.
Exactly.
Dude, I'll tell you what, when we have somebody show up in class or they're new and they have that wrestling background, I know I'm good for like probably the first couple months.
Yeah.
Because they don't know all the submissions.
Yeah,
yet.
you're getting caught in guillotine.
But once they get that dialed in, I'm done. I'm toast. Like when they get both of those married up, I'm done.
What do you feel like was the biggest hurdle when you first started jiu-jitsu coming from wrestling? Not banging on your back?
Honestly, so when I was really, really little, my dad did a little bit of jiu-jitsu. So, like, I would roll around on the mat a little bit in jiu-jitsu when I was little in, like, middle school. Nothing serious, wouldn't go to any practices or anything. I'll just roll around with him. So I kind of had the basic concept of, like, being on my back. And for some reason, I really wasn't the guy that, like, coming from wrestling, it, like, freaked me out to be on my back. Maybe because I was always on my back in wrestling. But yeah, no. So I think the hardest transition was just in the beginning was knowing when I was in danger. Like I would be in positions that I would be used to thinking I was in control, and then turns out I'm actually just venturing into a submission, and probably leg locks. Those two things were like what I needed to figure out in the beginning.
Did you start training off in gi, or was it straight no gi from the very beginning?
I wish it was no gi from the very beginning, but unfortunately it was not. I had a dreadful year of training in the gi, and that was when I first got introduced in jiu-jitsu fresh out of college wrestling. There was I wrestled at Virginia Tech out in Blacksburg, Virginia, and at the time I went training at a gym called Tech MMA out in Christiansburg, and they were a gi only gym. Awesome gym, really cool people, but I was like, I guess I got to train the gi, and so I started training the gi, and I hated it, but I really had no other choice. So for the first year, I trained in the gi.
Did you hate how much that slowed you down? Because that's what I commonly hear when we have the wrestlers show up. They're like, it just feels like they're stuck and they can't move and they hate
That's
it.
exactly what it was. I mean, that's actually how I met my girlfriend. I rolled with her at this gym, and she was controlling me with my gi, and I was confused. I was like, listen, we're never going to talk about this again. And so, yeah, you're right. It just slowing me down. You know, being a wrestler, I like to scramble. I like to move around. And someone gets a hold of that gi, it's just like, wow, this is a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. It's so funny when you first start off in the gi because, you know, there's the danger of there's a grip everywhere. There's some way someone can control you everywhere. You know what I mean? And you're like not even expecting, like you mentioned, your girlfriend just had a grip on your knee, and you're like, what is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
did you take my leg with you? Like,
Yeah.
was that the first time you rolled with her, or?
Yeah, that was the first time I rolled with her. Don't tell her this, but I think I put it on her. You know, I threw her. You know, I was doing all my wrestling moves. So her story may be a little.
You thought?
Yeah, her story may be a little different than mine, but yeah, she was a blue belt at the time. She's a purple belt now, but she was a blue belt at the time, and I was just first day white belt. You know, wrestlers going super hard, just trying.
Yep.
You know, going crazy, and people choking me with my gi. I'm just confused. But yeah, that was the first time I rolled with her.
It's so funny when you roll with a woman for the first time, especially someone with experience. You know, being a blue belt, she probably had a year or two, you know, training, maybe more, and so you're like sitting there like, I don't care, she's a woman, like it's not going to be that hard. We have a 16-year-old girl that we constantly talk about on our podcast. Her name's Riley. Shout out to Riley, she listens too. But you know, guys will come in and they'll see this small 16-year-old girl and they'll think, okay, well, this will be a rest round for me. No, she puts it on you, bro.
Yeah.
Like she's a blue belt at 16 years old for a reason. Like she is no joke. Like we always talk about too. Like, you know, I could use my size and like really put like physical strength and, you know, all those attributes into the role, but I feel like that's not going to benefit either one of us.
Yeah.
So we have to be like super technical with her. Otherwise, you're going to get a forearm across the throat. You're going to
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're going to she'll be on your back. Like it's so crazy how it happens. You have this idea of like, I'm a man, I can control any woman, and then the first one you roll with the jiu-jitsu, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, they're so flexible too. Like just legs and arms are just coming from weird angles. I'm just like, all right, I'm taking this round off.
So what was your first class like, and what made you actually decide to start pursuing it?
So to be honest, when I stopped wrestling, I was planning on transferring to a different school to wrestle, and I had a semester to finish that year of school before I could transfer. And so within like a week of me stop wrestling, 'cause it was like a major choice in my life to stop wrestling. At the time, I've been doing it for like 14, 15 years. Within like a week, I instantly missed the grind. You know, I instantly missed, you know, having a sore elbow, sore this, sore that. I just missed that whole feeling instantly. So like, I was like, I have to go do something. And so when I went and entered my first class, it was fun because I did it with a buddy. You always got to do your first class with a buddy. You know, that's just how it works. And so I had a buddy of mine, his name was Peyton, and we go there together. We're like, listen, you know, he was a wrestler too. He didn't wrestle in college, but he was a good wrestler in high school. We're like, we're going to go here. We're going to teach all these guys a lesson. We're going to go own this room today.
Wrong.
And so we went in there, and we could handle just about everyone, honestly, because I could for the most part. He could too. But then once you start venturing into like the purple belts and the gi, we were just getting choked, and so it was fun, and it was a little frustrating at the same time because of the gi and just getting choked with my own gi. I was like, all right, I'm having fun, but at the same time, I'm frustrated.
Nicky Rod just talked about that on the Lex Friedman podcast about when he first joined jiu-jitsu. It was obviously no-gi, and he could assert his dominance, one, because he's a physical specimen, and then two, he has a high-level Jersey wrestling background too. Do you think it would have been different if you would have started off in no-gi? Like, you probably might have been more successful?
I think so. After that first year, I started to get serious with jiu-jitsu. So I immediately moved to a gym that was no-gi. But that first year, honestly, I don't think it was a bad thing doing it in the gi because, for the first year, I'm just learning basics anyway, So I'm not getting anything too technical. And anything I would have learned my first year as a no-gi competitor, like if I had no background in wrestling, everything I would have learned my first year in no-gi probably would have been stuff I've already learned in wrestling. It's basic movement and how to use your body, stuff like that. So I don't think I lost too much ground at all, really. But I still wish I never saw the sight of a gi.
Do you feel like there was anything that came from the gi training that kind of still sticks with you now that you're predominantly or mainly no gi that you kind of attribute to that year of gi training?
Probably only nightmares at night. It's probably what's been carried over. But if I had to make up something, it would probably no, I'm joking. It would be probably problem-solving skills. I think being in the gi, you definitely have to problem-solve more, especially for me, because if I just went straight into no-gi, I would be in an environment that I'm comfortable in, right? Like, this is familiar with me, I know how to move. But by having that first year in the gi, it kind of started to open up my mind of like, in these positions, I just need to learn how to problem solve. And because I was experiencing something new, it kind of opened up that path for the rest of my jiu-jitsu career to be like, you're going to come in situations where you can't just brute force your way through or use your strength to get out of, that you need to actually problem solve. So I think the gi helped me to kind of open up that mindset of having to problem solve in positions that I simply wasn't used to.
Was it different that going into jiu-jitsu there was no really like weight class, you just train with whoever's in there,
yes,
regardless of size?
I'm glad you said that because that did throw me off because it's like, here, roll with this.
I still don't understand
250. I roll with Nicky Rod almost every week, and I'm just like, how is this even allowed? And so like, when I remember I went into jiu-jitsu and some dude's like, hey, are you going to enter the absolute division? And I'm like, what is that, like, extra reward or something? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's like, the weight classes. I was like, why would I do that? Like, what's the point of that? And so that threw me off because, everyone has a mindset of like, oh, technique should be superior to size. It is to a certain extent. I mean, yep. I can take that. I have the ability, I feel like, to take down just about anyone, but it's pretty hard to take down Nicky Rod because he's huge,
right?
And he's also good at wrestling. So when someone has good skill and they're also big, it's going to throw you off. So yes, that did really that was a curveball to me.
Yeah, when I wrestled in high school, I had one of my good friends. I remember during practice one day, I was like, "Hey, Manny, you want to like train together today?" And obviously in wrestling, he was like in 200s or like maybe like a 187 or something like that, and I was 119. And he's like, no, I don't want to train with you. Like, I'm fucking huge compared to you. Like, why would I do that? But in jiu-jitsu, like you just mentioned, it's that mindset of like, I want to train with the bigger person because it's going to produce more difficulties for me to figure out and to problem solve, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's such a unique aspect to our sport. Even you hear it when people like watch MMA or something like that, and they're like, wait, there's an absolute division?
Yeah.
You mean to tell me this 250-pound guy is going to go against a 135-pound guy? Like watching Mikey roll against that like 260-pound guy where he was literally forearm across the face and he won the match.
Yeah.
Like where not that's not going to happen in MMA.
No,
you know what I mean?
Well, it might. Either. Like not even close. Like I remember in wrestling and like in practice and stuff, if someone was like 10 pounds bigger than you, it was like a big deal. It was like if you lost to someone in the practice room or in tournament and you were like, oh, the guy was 10 pounds bigger than me, like the whole community would be like, oh, okay, like, and that doesn't count, obviously.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like, and jiu-jitsu, it's like no one cares. And I'm like, all right, I guess I got to stop caring too.
Do you think that kind of produces a different mindset in jiu-jitsu competitors that you don't see in wrestlers? Like, I'm not saying wrestlers would make the excuse of like the guy was bigger than me, but very often we kind of, like you mentioned, we don't necessarily say that. Like we do, but in the jiu-jitsu community, it's kind of more of like, well, that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got well, and you quickly realize, they're full of shit when you're like first going. They're like technique beats everything. If your technique's better, no, my technique could be good. It could be better than theirs, but if they got me by 85 pounds, guess what? That's going to make the difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's what allows me to sleep at night when I get beat up by Nick Urad. I just tell myself he's
right.
bigger than me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
if he was my same size, it wouldn't be close. And I hope he hears this. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's because you're allowed to do stuff like leg locks and it's like little, it's like, I don't, people's mindset in jiu-jitsu is, yeah, you're big, but if I can get all my weight to like focus in on your foot, I can break it. And so like the weight shouldn't matter. But I agree with you as far as like, yeah, if my technique's better than yours, but you're like 80 pounds bigger than me, I'm not going to be able to do but so much. And then on top of that, if our technique is the same and you're bigger than me, then I might as well just tap out now before the match even starts. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. When the techniques are pretty much the same, but some person's 80 pounds heavier, that's just hard to overcome.
Yeah, but you see Absolute and 80cc, and you do see guys that are smaller, Lachlan Giles, submitting monsters. And so, I think the leg lock game has definitely kind of closed that gap a little bit where like maybe bigger than me, but if I can get to your leg somehow, I can probably submit you. So, it all just depends on the individual, I think.
So how did you end up at B team?
So, when I transferred, I'll go ahead and start when I transferred from the first jiu-jitsu gym to my second jiu-jitsu gym. My first jiu-jitsu gym, the one that was gi only at Tech MMA, it was more of a hobbyist gym. We did have a guy come out of there who went to the UFC. His name is Tony Gravely. He was like my go-to training partner there. And so we had good guys there, but it was still a hobbyist gym and it was still gi. And I wanted to be the best in wrestling. I was able to get a lot of accolades in wrestling, but like I always wanted to be like Olympic champion. And so when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I was like, well, obviously I want to be an 80-50 champion now. And so I heard of the gym that was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from Tech MMA, and they were no-gi, a gym called Team Manning. And the instructor there was a black belt directly under Renzo Gracie. And they had quite a few guys that were like full-time competitors in no-gi. And once I caught wind of that, I was like, oh, I'm out of here. And I say it a little rudely, but I left on good terms, obviously. I talked to the guy. We're all friends there. I was like, hey, I really want to train no-gi, and these guys have no-gi. But unfortunately, they were rival gyms. So I was like, listen, I really need to get better, and I really need to train no-gi. That's where the money's going to be at in the future. That's where the sport's heading. I need to train no-gi. And he understood. So I ended up going to that gym and training there. And because everyone they were full-time competitors, they were really in touch with the DDS squad at the time. They were talking about the DDS squad, Nicky Rod, Gordon, Craig, all them. And so when I got to this new gym is when I really started to learn about all these new grapplers, like Nicky Rod and all them. And I was like, well, so these guys are the best? And they're like, yeah. And so I trained at this new gym for about 2 years. Got tremendously better quickly. I was learning leg locks. I was learning my first class there. I actually got my foot broke because at my old gym, the gi only, they didn't do leg locks. They didn't do heel hooks. My first day at this new gym, they did heel hooks. And I come in there, I'm like, once again, I'm like, oh, I'm a wrestler. I'm coming here and trying to dominate everyone. And this black belt, Miles Williams, shout out to Miles, he's a stud. He like heel hooks me and breaks my foot. And I'm just like, okay, I need to learn leg locks now. So I started training there for 2 years, and I started to win Nagas and new breeds and stuff. I was winning those in the black belt divisions. And I was like, I really need, if I want to be the best in the world, I need to go train with the best. And because I was fortunate enough to train with the best throughout my wrestling career, the best in the world. And so I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, and I sat her down. I was like, this is what I want to do. She was still in college at the time. It was her last year. And I was like, I'll wait for you to finish school. I'll finish out this semester. And when you finish, I'm moving to Austin, Texas. You can come with me or you can stay here. Um, and so she was like, obviously I'm coming with you. And she jiu-jitsu and she was also an MMA fighter. So she kind of knows the whole game. She understands everything. So I lucked out with her big time. And she was like, I'm going to go with you. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I want to be the best in the world. I'm going to move out to Austin. I told my family, I'm moving out to Austin, told everyone. And everyone was like, this is a horrible idea. Don't do this. You need to stay in college. You need to go, work in an office somewhere, 9 to 5. Like, don't do this. And I was just like, listen, that's not me. Like, I'm going to make this happen somehow. So I worked at Chipotle for like 2 years, saved up money, while I dropped out of college, worked at Chipotle, saved up money for about 2 years, and then moved out to Austin, and got a job here instantly because my money was running low. And I started training here. But I guess a key detail I did leave out was about 3 weeks before I was supposed to move to Austin. I was super excited. I'm like, guys, I'm going to be the ADCC champ. I'm out of here. Like, let's go. I get my elbow completely blown out, just blown out. I have to get surgery. I got caught in a Kimura in practice, and I tried to limp arm out. So obviously my problem solving skills still need some work because that was not a smart choice. And so I limp arm out of the Kimura, blows my UCL completely, tears everything, have to get Tommy John surgery. And I'm like, what do I do now? Like, I can't even roll. It was a year-long rehab. And I was like, well, I'm still going. I was like, I'm still going, guys. And so I went out there, and once I got there, I just like sat in the room for like 5 months watching the guys roll, and I couldn't even get on the mat, which made me want to kill myself. Like, it was horrible. But that's kind of how I got there.
So in your story, you mentioned the accolades that you received from wrestling, your national champs and all that stuff, and then your jiu-jitsu accolades of winning Nagas and stuff like that. What do you think is equivalent to like winning a state champion or winning your national champion to you in jiu-jitsu besides ADCC?
That's a good question. I never thought about that. That's tough. I'd say winning like a Naga in a good area. Like winning a Naga here in Austin is a lot harder than winning a Naga somewhere else. Because you have people from B Team, New Wave, 10th Planet, everyone all entering these Nagas. And it's like, why am I grappling Oliver Taza at Naga? Like, and so I'd say winning a Naga in a tough area would be equivalent to winning a state title in high school. And then I'd say making it to the second day, I'd say making it to the second day at ADCC trials, or maybe medaling at an IBJJF, something like that, is like equivalent to All-American at a national tournament in high school. And then I'd say winning ADCC trials is like winning a national title in college. And then I'd say winning ADCs is like winning an Olympic title in wrestling.
Yeah, I would say the ADCC, right? We do say that's the Olympics of of grappling, and so very few people actually get to win. When you walked into B Team, and you have this mindset of like, I want to be a ADCC champion. Like you think kind of what you need to do, but then you walk into a place like B Team and you just see absolute studs everywhere. The level of talent is just phenomenal. What was that experience like? Was it kind of like sobering, like, man, I need a lot of work, or was it like, I can't wait to get this going?
I was terrified. I true story. My first day walking in there, I have a problem like finding the place. I don't even know where I'm at, and I'm like, well, walking to this building, I'm like venturing around. I come around the corner and I see the like B Team mural on the wall in the door, and I walk up to the door and I'm like literally like so nervous that I turn around and I walk away and I walk back outside the building. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, which is not like me at all. I'm very confident. I'm very like easygoing, easy to get along with. Like I never really get too nervous for like things like that. But for some reason, I was like, right when I went to go open up the door, was when I realized like, oh shit, I'm here. Like I didn't even realize
Yeah.
it until I was about to open the door, and everything's like flashed in my head. Like, wow, I've been studying these guys' films. I've been watching these guys on TV, ADCC. I didn't realize that until I was about to walk in, and of course, thoughts start coming in your head like, am I worthy to be here? Are they going to kick me out? Like, am I not good enough? Like, all those thoughts start running to your head. So I walked out. I took a deep breath, and I was like, I'm going to go here. I'm going to crush everyone. Turn around, walk in. I walk in there, and to answer your question, it was humbling. I don't want to use the word humbling because deep down inside, I am already humble, and I've been humbled numerous amount of times throughout wrestling. So, like, I wouldn't say humbled. I was more, I guess, like you said, just ready to learn. I was antsy. I was like, even though like when I walked in there, my arm was all jacked up. I'm like, I'm going to watch these guys and learn as much as possible. They know way more than me. They're way better than me at jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to come in here and I'm excited to learn. So I'd say I was probably more excited to learn than I was like, I guess, humbled or nervous. I was.
It's more like a sobering moment, I guess you would say, right? Like, yeah, John had a major shoulder surgery. He just came out of for about a year ago, and he was itching to get back on the mat for a little bit too.
Shoulders are rough.
But you had to. Did you not feel like just rusty after all that time off and then getting on it, or did it seem easier to you to like learn new stuff because you had that long mental break?
It's good you say that because it was definitely a thought that I had was like, when I finally get to come back, because obviously I have to prove myself, right? For the longest time, they didn't accept anyone below purple belt. I'm a purple belt, and I was purple belt at the time when I got here. And so, but in my head, I'm like, I have to prove myself. I have to show them I'm good. And that was my thought. I was like, well, when I come back, I'm going to be so rusty. I'm going to be so tired. My cardio is going to be horrible. Like, they're going to think I suck when it's like,
right.
I haven't rolled in like 8 months, And so, I was supposed to be off the mat for like 6 months, but like 3 months in, I was already on the mat. So,
hey, John.
so like
I tried it. I was like, all right, I need to take the other months off.
Yeah, and so yeah, I guess I was obviously my cardio was bad, but I was rusty. But I typically could knock off the rust pretty quickly.
Was there any major injuries that you went through wrestling that kind of prepared you for this elbow injury?
Yes. I've had, I guess, 2 major surgeries, but and when wrestling through middle school and high school, in middle school, I tore my meniscus for the first time when I was like in 8th grade. I tore my meniscus 3 times. The third time, it locked my leg out and I couldn't move it, so I had to get surgery. And they just took my meniscus completely out of my right knee. And I've torn my LCL, my MCL, broken bones, torn stuff in my hand. I've just pretty much, messed up my shoulder. I've jacked up everything, but the only major surgery I had was my meniscus leading up to my elbow. And that was my philosophy coming into my elbow, was like, I've been through this before. When I tore my meniscus, I remember when I got the news that I was going to be off the mat for like 7 months, I cried. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to wrestle again. Like, this is horrible. And so when I hurt my elbow, I was like, I've been through this before. I'll be fine. This year is going to fly by like this. I like wrote notes to myself and put it on the wall that like I was going to heal faster than anyone else in the world. I was going to, be back in the mat faster than the doctor told me. Like, I just kind of wrote mental notes to myself because I'm a big believer in like, kind of like brainwashing yourself almost. Like, if I believe this is going to heal faster, then it probably will. So I told myself that every day. And I was actually back in the mat faster, and my elbow feels amazing.
I'm like trying to order deer antler and everything online from when Ray Lewis tore his shoulder. I was like, where's this stuff at? I need to get some of this.
I think Ray Lewis took a little bit more than deer antler to recover from an injury. He probably was on the same as Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. So when when you sign up for B team, is there like I know they're very selective, like you just mentioned. For the longest time, they only accepted purple and above, and then they slowly now they have a white belt program. Was it like you had to be interviewed by them, or was it like, how did the whole joining process go?
Yeah, so being a wrestler has given me a lot of opportunities. Probably that I don't deserve, but for some reason in jiu-jitsu, when people hear you're a wrestler, they're like, "Oh, this, awesome." And so I walk in there, and JB is running the front desk. Shout out to JB, he's one of my best friends. Super cool guy. If it wasn't for JB, my experience joining the B team probably would have been a little more rocky. But JB made it so smooth. I come in, and JB's like, I'm wearing a wrestling shirt. That was all part of the plan. And so I'm like wearing a wrestling shirt. I come in, and JB's like, "Oh, you're a wrestler?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, cool. Like, we're definitely going to get you here. We don't want you going the new wave." Like, and so he's like,
Already throwing shade.
like, "You're not going the new wave," And so I was like, "All right." And so the whole process was JB kind of made it feel like I was already in, but I kind of still had to go through the process, which is for everyone who joins there, you have like a monthly evaluation from all the instructors, like Ethan, Nicky Rod, Craig, Damian, Nicky Ryan, J Rod, all those guys. At the time, Nick Ortiz was there. You have a month where they kind of evaluate you and how good you are. Believe it or not, like the biggest thing they care about more than anything is, are you fun to be around? Are you someone who people can trust? Are you funny? Are you fun to be around? Are you some weirdo or creep? And so that was kind of the biggest thing I found out, that like they really just cared about who you were as a person, and then like your skill and technique kind of came after that. And so after a month, I got an email from Seth, who's like one of the owners of the gym. He's like, "Hey man, everything's good. You're in. Like, all the guys love you. Like, come in tomorrow at practice. We'll take a picture of you. We'll put your picture on the wall." And I was like, "All right, sweet, let's go."
Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, and I have a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products, and it's going even further with their brand new Weed Whacker 2.0. Go ahead and tell the world the leader in below-the-waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with their revolutionary grooming product. The new Weed Whacker 2.0 and their new beard line confirms they have all of the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. Time for you to upgrade your game by going to manscaped.com and using our code ETP20 for 20% off plus free shipping.
It all starts with the cordless electric beard hedger. The waterproof cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. Absolutely love the beard hedge trimmer. It is phenomenal. All the accessories that come with it and the design of the beard hedge trimmer, it's phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough. My face and my beard have never felt better.
Agreed. And I mean, just having that dial and being able to adjust it,
dude,
phenomenal.
great.
Absolutely love it.
So get 20% off and free shipping with our code ETP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using code ETP20. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Was it intimidating? Like, you didn't want to seem fake? You know what I mean? Like, you want to warm up to these guys, but you obviously, we look up to these people, and when you see them in person and you're trying to show that you're like not a dweeb, you know what I mean? Like, was it intimidating?
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't hard to do this. I think for anyone who's listening to this, who's trying to come to the B team or wants to come drop in anything, it's definitely hard because, like you said, you want to impress the people there, but you don't want to fall into the trap of not being yourself. And so It's a hard trap to fall into. For me, it wasn't, because I've always been part of a team my whole life. And at some point, I was a freshman going onto a college wrestling team where everyone there's studs and national All-Americans. So I kind of had to do this process before. And it's definitely tricky because, like you said, you want to be yourself. The first thing I told myself when I walk in is, I'm not going to ask anyone for pictures when I'm here. I'm not going to ask anyone.
Not yet.
Not yet. And so for like the first few months, I didn't ask anyone for a picture, nothing, because in my head I was like, one, I know everyone always comes in here and asking for pictures, and two, it's like I'm their teammates now. Like I'm their teammate. So like I don't want to look at them as like excluded from the room. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to look at them as like, oh, like that's Craig Jones. Like no, like we're all teammates now. So like I kind of it was really easy for me to be myself, and I think because of that, I made connections with those guys and friendships with those guys pretty quicker than I thought I would, and so unfortunately for me, it went pretty smooth.
So don't go in there and just try to submit everyone as hard as you can.
Yeah,
right away.
yeah, ease in,
Probably a bad
be
idea.
yourself. Just enjoy the moment.
Just catch and release.
What is class like? How is class ran at B Team? Do you guys do like a traditional warm up, or is it straight into technique? And then how does the whole class vibe go?
So I go every day at 12 o'clock noon, which is when all the pros train there. I was actually just hired as an instructor there like 2 weeks ago. I teach wrestling classes.
Oh,
now.
congratulations.
Yeah. So I used to just train at 12 noon, but now I have to come in the evening some days to teach. But as far as the noon classes, those are the ones I go to. You come in, if you want to warm up, you just get there a little early. There's normally, JB people normally they're playing spike ball or something. And we kind of just go straight into technique. Once the clock hits 12, either Nicky Rod, Nicky Ryan, one of the guys are teaching. We'll go straight into technique. We'll do some sort of position that everyone kind of needs work on. And we'll do that for about 30, 45 minutes. And after 45 minutes of technique, we normally go into positional rounds, like mount, turtle, 50-50, some sort of positional rounds. We'll do 3 positional rounds, and then it goes into open mat. And all the goes are 10-minute rounds, which that took some getting used to.
Wow.
So I'm still getting used to it. But that's typically how it goes. And afterwards, here recently, like me and Nicky Rod and some of the guys, we're doing some sort of like little workout right after practice. Just something, to kind of get the mental edge.
Craig Jones recently said when he rolls with people, especially ones that he doesn't know, he tries to try to make it like fun. That way, it breaks that ice of like, oh my God, it's Craig Jones. I need to try my hardest. I need to impress him and stuff like that. Is he like that during like your guys' actual practice too, or is it more of he's actually trying, like if he's preparing for a competition or something like that?
I don't think I've ever seen Craig take one thing seriously, even his roles. I'm like over here going balls to the wall, getting slammed by Nicky Rod.
He's like twerking on you.
I like look over and Craig's just chilling, rolling with someone, like just chilling. And I'm like still dominating, but I'm just like, yeah, this guy just typically doesn't take anything too serious. So it is true that when he does roll live, it normally isn't that crazy unless he's going Nicky Rod. Whenever he goes Nicky Rod, it gets pretty intense. But with anyone else, he's normally pretty chill. And I don't know whether it's because he's being chill or because we suck so bad he doesn't have to go hard. So I'm trying to decide which one it is.
We had Nathan Orchard come to our gym and do a seminar for us. And that was our first experience rolling with someone at that level. And it was mind-boggling.
I don't even know if I'd call it rolling. At least not for him, I'm sure. He was
it was like mind-boggling. Like the you're rolling with this person and you're like, dude, like I there's like absolutely nothing I would ever do to you that would make you even second guess being in trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how was that experience rolling with like Nicky Rod, Nicky Ryan, Ethan, Craig Jones? How was that all when you first started?
So with people my size, I can typically put up a pretty good fight only because, I mean, when I was wrestling in college, I was wrestling with Olympians and world champions. And believe it or not, I mean, if I had to say, I'd say those rounds were harder because just how physical wrestling is. When you roll with like an Olympic champion or a world medalist, like I'll roll with Frank Molinaro and Jared Frayer. They're both Olympians. It would be miserable. Like I remember I got like pretty much I got waterboarded one time in practice with like a sweaty shirt.
Sweat.
Yeah, like it's wrapped. he's wrapped his shirt around my face and I couldn't breathe. And like, I'm just being told to fight off my back. So like, I was kind of used to that mentality coming into the B team. And so in my head, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to see anything I've never seen before or felt anything I've never felt before. And so that's typically that's how it went. Like, obviously I was getting submitted by the better guys, but I could pretty much take down everyone because my wrestling definitely felt better. Um, and so I could definitely take him down and like wear him out on my feet. And then once we got to the ground, that's when it got interesting. Like I'd get to the ground and I'd be getting submitted. And some rounds I wouldn't get submitted. Sometimes I could kind of just fight him off somehow for 10 minutes. But when they decide to pick it up on you, like people like Ethan, I remember the first time I went with Ethan Krillestein, it was like I did not expect this man to be this strong. Like he got me in mount, and I couldn't get out for like 8 minutes. Like this dude just smothered me. He would take my back. And so some rounds would be better than others, but I would say nothing was too like blew my mind. Like, whoa, like this guy's just super, super good. So I kind of expected him to already be good, and I already expected myself to get submitted. So when it was happening, I wasn't like caught off guard or anything.
Yeah, that was probably we didn't compete at a high level. So you, like you mentioned, you experiencing like those high level wrestlers, like you've already had that experience.
Yeah.
So when you meet someone like them, it's like, okay, well I've been here.
Yeah.
But it's like it's so interesting too, because in your story you mentioned not getting submitted and then sometimes getting submitted to a round lasting 10 minutes and being dominant. What is a victory in training look like for you now compared to when you first started?
It's a really good question. So I've probably been at the B team for about 8-9 months now. Probably 6 of those months or 5 of those months I've actually been rolling. Probably about 6-7 months I've been rolling. So I was sitting out for about 3 months when I first got here. And I guess right now, either I haven't been able to submit in any of the instructors. I'm not near that yet. But so that would be a victory, but I'm not there. I guess a victory now would be getting out of bad positions that I normally would be stuck in, like having Ethan Krillestein on your back is the most miserable thing you can experience. And so whenever I can get out of his back control, I come home and I party. It's like this was an amazing day.
Give yourself a high five.
Yeah, dude, I'm like let's go. And so that's kind of how it is now. And escaping bad positions, giving them good goes. Like I said, people around my size, like me, Ethan, Nicky Ryan, J Rod. I roll with Ethan a lot, roll with J Rod a lot. Like whenever we just have a battle, like we're just battling. Like that's a victory in my mind, right? Because obviously I'm not going to roll with these guys to work my technique. I'll roll with someone who I know I can beat to work my technique. So whenever I roll with those guys, like I'm just trying to battle because I'm trying to give them a good go because they're normally getting ready for a big competition, a big match. So I want to be able to push them. And if I'm able to push them, escape out of bad positions, get my takedowns, because I can normally get my takedowns pretty consistently, I consider that a win in my book. Even if I get submitted 50 times, I go home and I tell myself I won.
So it's that feeling of, being competitive. Like,
being competitive.
God,
sometimes
yes.
we'll roll with our buddy Cody and I can't even make him sweat. And I'm like, that's when I'll feel the worst.
Yeah.
Can't even give somebody a good roll just so outmatched.
You're like, I'm such a terrible training partner. I did nothing for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what to do now.
As long as I can give them a good go, I feel like, it's good.
Yeah.
So are you expected to compete since you train at B team? Like, is that part of like being a member, is like you, especially training at noon now with the pro teams, are you expected to compete?
Yes. We have people who don't compete, but a lot of our guys do compete. Everyone pretty much competes, especially if they think you're good, especially if they roll with you and they think you're good or you're a good wrestler. They're 100% like, go, like when you competing, what do you have coming up? Like, they want you to compete. Um, and so I, I couldn't say I was pressured to compete because I was already wanting to compete, so no one had to convince me to compete. But I don't really see them pressuring anyone to compete. For the most part, everyone who comes there like dropped their whole life to come here, so I assume they all want to compete, and they do. So yeah, I'd say everyone. I'd say about 80% of the guys there and girls compete.
Since you guys just picked up that new white belt program, um, what do you expect to happen to these people that are coming to you guys from like day one? Because there's so much talent there. Or like, are you expecting like a homegrown like ADCC champion, or like how are you guys looking at having these white belts finally?
Honestly, I have my own opinion and thought on that. Like, it's very interesting because like I can see the positive on both sides as far as having like a super exclusive gym and then having a gym that's now open to white belts and blue belts. I can see, the pros and cons of both sides. Um, I think for the future of jiu-jitsu, it's really good. I think having white belts and people coming here and be able to learn high level jiu-jitsu and then spread it out throughout the rest of the community when they get, when they get their higher belts and then they move somewhere, open up their own gym and they're all under Craig Jones or Nicky Rod or Nicky Ryan. And all it is going to evolutionize the sport even more and even faster. And so I think it's a good thing. But I think definitely, especially the pros, like Craig Jones and all of them, uh, I guess the white belts program is separate from the noon classes. Like the white belts aren't allowed to train in the noon classes, so it isn't really a problem that they run into as far as like not having space or having white belts hurt people, stuff like that. So I think as long as they keep it separate for a while, it's going to be a pretty good thing. Just to share the knowledge of jiu-jitsu that these guys have at this gym. I think it's just going to help the sport even more.
I'm sure the white belts want to be separate from you guys. For a while,
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, do not want to be on that.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, give me a couple years first.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that'd be an eye-opening experience for sure.
Yeah. I'm like, can I just watch from a distance?
I mean, it's true though. Like it's when I'm sure you, like you mentioned too, like when you first start off and you roll with like someone a higher level, and it could be demoralizing. It really can.
Oh, yeah.
It can really you can handle it two ways. You can be like motivated to like, man, I can't wait to get that good, or you could be like, dude, I have so far to go. Why am I even starting? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is your perspective on kind of? I don't want to say like turning it up on white belts, but how do you view training with white belts to give them the best opportunity?
I try to kill him. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was like, I prefer that actually.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, it depends on like the white belt.
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
I know the
Yes.
white belt's got some skill,
You have to know who you're rolling with.
yeah.
You have to know because I mean, I've come across some white belts and blue belts that were like ready to scrap, dude. Like they're ready to scrap, and so um, I wouldn't say I take it easy on white belts, but I'm not as physical. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to get physical with white belts. I can submit them 50 times, and they don't have a mark on them anywhere. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of work your technique. You work what you've been working on. Where going with good guys, you have to get really physical. You have to get really aggressive just to be able to move some of these guys. So when going with white belts, it's not like a balls to the wall roll. It's more just like um, dominating technically. It's like let me just work my stuff and I really try to give back to people who are starting this journey because I respect anyone who steps on the mat or steps into a cage because no one most of the world would be terrified to do that. So the fact that you're out here, I don't care if you're a white belt, like I respect you more than I do the black belts. So I'll try and help out as much as possible. And I'm also a very big believer in you can learn anything from anyone. I used to teach a kids wrestling program, and like I'd catch myself like studying these kids, and they'd be doing stuff that I'm like what you do there? Like you could literally learn from anyone. And I remember Henzo Gracie told me personally a story one time about like one of his best escapes he learned from a white belt. And so when I roll white belts, yeah, I'm practicing, but I'm also taking notes too, and I'm also trying to help them. Because when I was a white belt, people helped me. So.
Yeah, I remember when we first started, if I was rolling with a black belt, if they laid there like a fish and just let me do whatever I wanted, that really messed me up. Because one, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And two, all I knew how to do was react. So I was like, man, you need to start crushing me so I can
Yeah.
move around here or something.
Yeah, that's so true.
How how do you approach rolling with higher belts? Because I know when it comes to like us, I don't know. Maybe I get not analysis paralysis, but I overthink. Right? If I get in a dominant position in my head, I'm like, did I get here because they let me, or did I earn this? Should I go for a submission? How hard should I try? Like I kind of start overthinking the whole situation. How do you approach rolling with higher belts?
Yeah, that's you described that perfectly because I try not to do that. I try not to. I the first thing I don't want to do is overthink. I don't want to. If I catch a high level guy with a submission, I don't want to act like I don't even want to think anything. I don't want to be like, wow, like am I as good as him now? Or, like
Yeah.
I care less. And if he submits me, care less. You know what I mean? It's like if you really have to go in, just being in the moment. When you're going and just learn what's going on in the moment, right? It's like I, I have a lot of conversations, obviously with the room, like with Nicky Rod and Ethan and all them. Everyone's gunning for them, right? Everyone is trying, like, oh, if I can get a submission on one of these guys, then like I can prove to myself that I'm getting better. If I can just catch one of these guys, and then you always have that thought, like, well, they're going as hard as they could because it's the practice room. Would it be different in competition if I went against them? And then you just start worrying about winning and losing rather than just getting better. And that was one of the best advices I've ever heard from a wrestler from Iowa. He's a world team member. His name's Thomas Gilman. He said one of the differences between the Olympic level athletes and like the college level athletes is those high level guys. They start to figure out and they start to learn that they care more about getting better than they do winning and losing. That you should only just care about getting better. Like who cares if you lose or win? Just get better. And so when I roll with these high level guys, that's all I'm thinking to myself is just get better. Like whether I win or lose has nothing to do whether I'm getting better. It's what am I taking away from the match? What am I going home and thinking about what I did wrong? Am I going home and writing down the things I did right? Just focus on getting better when you roll with those better guys, right? Don't focus on trying to beat them. And I don't. Except for Nicky Rod. I try to crush that guy. And I do. And I do.
As much as possible. As much as possible. Or should we call him Natty Rod?
Natty Rod. There you go. That's right.
You mentioned something very interesting in that with the writing stuff down. Do you journal or do you reflect on your training?
Yes. I wasn't a big believer or fan in like writing stuff down. I didn't really do that in wrestling. But I do think jiu-jitsu is a lot more technical than wrestling. Wrestling is very technical, but you do rely.
Man, you're about to get some shade on that one.
Oh yeah, I am. Don't get me wrong. Wrestling is super technical, but there's a reason why it's a young man's game because it does rely a lot on speed, explosivity, strength. It does rely a lot on that. So does jiu-jitsu. But there's just so many different positions in jiu-jitsu that have so many different paths that like branch out. So it's like just so much technique. It's like, especially when I got to B team, it's like the amount of detail in the moves is ridiculous. Like like when I came to B team, I was like, this is how you finish a rear naked choke, right? And they're like, well, actually, you need to twist your spine this way while your chin comes down this way and this hand's going like it's just so detailed. And it actually makes a difference. And so because it gets so detailed, I'm like, I need to write this shit down. Like I can't remember what I did yesterday. And so I will come home, and for a while I was writing down everything I did wrong at practice and everything I did right. And I still do that every once in a while. I do that a lot now because I have my own class. And so I will take notes on all of the guys when they're rolling and try to write down individual notes on everyone on what they were doing wrong with their wrestling and do stuff like that. But B team also has a bunch of cameras. So now that I'm a little closer with the guys, sometimes I can look at the camera footage and dissect my own rounds just by watching film. and kind of see like, yeah, I'm having trouble passing here. Why am I having trouble? So I'll write stuff down every once in a while if I'm really having a problem with something.
How is promotions handled at B Team? Is it testing? Is it they just when they feel you're ready for the belt, they give it to you? How is that all handled?
Um, there's a
Are you
transaction.
allowed to talk about
No,
that?
no, you're good. There's a transaction where you pay Craig a bunch of money, and he'll give you your belt right
The
there
same
on the
everywhere.
spot.
Smart,
Um,
smart. And then you can tap them on video too
exactly,
for
that's
social media.
extra. um, no, it's when they think you're ready. When you come in, you sign in on a kiosk, and it keeps count on what days you go to practice and how many times you go to practice a week, and how many days you've been in that rank. There's like a system when you sign in, it keeps count of that. But it also just depends on if you're getting better, you're getting better, right? If you're out there crushing it in competition and beating everyone, you're going to get your belt faster, and your technique's getting better. So it really just comes down to they think you're ready. How are you doing in competition? How's your technique? How are you rolling with them when you do matches with them? Are you improving? So it really comes down to just their judgment, which obviously I trust. So I'll get my belt when I know I've deserved it.
Do you have a good recovery routine
God, I
since you're
wish.
training so much?
Yeah, he's 24. That's his
Is
recovery
that
routine.
it? You're just like, I just go to bed and I wake up and I'm fresh.
Yeah. It's hard, man. Especially like I will train Monday through Friday every day, and then I'll work on the weekends, and then I try and lift 3 days a week as well. And so even being 24, it becomes a lot,
Oh yeah.
and it's just especially when you're rolling with high level world class people every practice, like it's just a beating on your body. And what people don't realize too is I've been wrestling since fourth grade. So like believe it or not, I believe my body has more mileage than some of these instructor guys. Like Ethan Krillstein and Nicky Rod was a wrestler. People like Ethan and stuff, like they've only been doing jiu-jitsu for like 8 years. You know what I mean? Like they're just really, really, really good. I'm 8 years is still super long, but it's like
Yeah.
I have like 18 years of just beating on my body, and so the recovery. Just sleep. I try and sleep. I sleep a lot whenever I'm not at work training because I was also hired as a full time wrestling instructor at an MMA gym. So I teach 6 classes um, at that gym, King's MMA, and I also teach classes at B Team. So whenever I'm not teaching, rolling, or lifting, I am sleeping. Um, so I'd say sleep is my best recovery. I wish I had the money to go do like ice baths and stem cell recovery. That would be amazing. Maybe that day is coming in the near future. But as far as what I can do now, I'd say just sleep and eat right. And creatine, BCAA, stuff like that, I think help.
I
Obviously,
mean, you could
steroids help. I
always.
don't take steroids, but
I was about to say,
steroids
damn it.
definitely. I don't take steroids yet, but
I was waiting for him. And
Yeah.
and Trimbalone.
I mean, it's legal
Trimbalone
in
helps
the
out a
sport,
lot.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting topic. So I definitely believe steroids is a massive advantage if you take it. You know what I mean? Like, if you take steroids, I've heard, not my personal experience, but I've heard, like you just heal quicker. You heal way quicker than anyone else. Like, you can just do way more training sessions, and your body's not breaking
Yeah.
down. So maybe when I'm older, I'll try the secret sauce.
You never ran into anyone on the juice in your years of wrestling?
That's a good question. Everyone asks me that. They're like, well, I didn't. Well,
That
even
you
if you
know
did,
of.
how would you know,
yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. Like I think I did, but it was super rare because you have high school kids who their test is already through the roof, um, and it's like you do get tested in college. Um, they tested more for like weed and stuff like that than they did steroids.
Really?
Yes, yeah. We'd have random drug tests all the time. Um, and I, there's some people I thought were on steroids, but it is nowhere near, not even close to what it's like in jiu-jitsu. In jiu-jitsu, it's just like it's just what everyone does.
I'd be like, everyone I lost to was on steroids.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. Is like every time you lose, you're like,
Yeah.
well, shit. Like, would I have won if I was on steroids? Because this guy is, like.
Hey, it's true though. But hey, the topic of steroids is big in the jiu-jitsu community right now, obviously because the 5 people that just got 3-year suspensions through the IBJJF.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think people have this concept of steroids are going to make me better at jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
And yes and no. Like I commented on one of Nicky Rod's posts a while ago when he was talking about on the Simple Man podcast about steroids aren't going to make you better at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like there's people in jiu-jitsu that are juiced to the gills that have never won a title,
Mhm.
that have never gone to ADCC, right? And I mentioned in the comments like steroids aren't going to change bad technique and your genetics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have terrible genetics, you're prone to injuries, right? Like you're physiologically just not very muscle bound. Like it's going to help you, but it's not going to change who you
like
are.
a magic thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like boom, I started taking trend, now I can win ADCC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you approach the whole situation like when you compete now? Like you mentioned like I lost to someone, maybe he was on steroids. Like how do you keep a level head thinking, like it's out there, but it's not going to be the end all be all factor.
Yeah. I mean, if I lose to someone on steroids, I just don't count it as a loss. I'm just like, I won. But it's definitely a tricky subject because it's like there's a loophole in there. It's like you don't get better at jiu-jitsu when you take steroids, but you do to an extent because you can train way more.
Right.
You get better way faster. Like people I know that are on steroids, and then when they're not on steroids, like they're training three times a day, and they act like they haven't even trained once that day. I mean, they're just always going. So if you can train 3 times a day, every day, you're going to get better at jiu-jitsu way faster than anyone else because you can put in that time, and you're only able to do it because you're taking steroids. And so it's it's hard to think that like, man, if I was on steroids, I could train more, I could get better faster, and so that's the thought that runs through your head, and especially when you lose, you're like, crap, this guy was just freakishly strong. And strength does play a factor. When you go in there and you use your technique to move the guy and the guy doesn't move, you're like, oh shit, like, what do I do now? And I've had matches with people like that. And it's my philosophy, what I tell myself all the time is all I need to see is one person get it done who's not on steroids, and that's all I need to see. Right? Like, you look at the Rotolo brothers. I don't think they're on steroids. And they just won ADCC. So all I need to see is one person do it. And like William Tackett, the Tackett brothers. I don't think they're on anything. And, William won trials. So if they can do it, then I can do it, So it's going to be harder, and maybe it won't happen. But just by seeing someone able to do it, it makes me, it helps me with my own psyche of dealing with it. Like, okay, well then it can be done. Maybe I'm just being, a baby. I wanted to say another
It's
word.
always easier when people say, just worry about you and not everybody else, and life's a lot easier. Yep.
So when you guys go out in public in Austin, downtown Austin, and you're wearing your B team swag and stuff like that, and you see some like new wave guys, are you guys like ready to rumble in the street? Are you like snapping fingers, getting ready to like?
It's like outsiders.
Yeah.
It's like the Crips and the Bloods. Like we have our own color when we go out in public. The B team, we're told we're only allowed to wear blue shirts, and so
Gotcha.
And so, I haven't ran into that problem yet, but I'm waiting for the day because I'm not the type to like beef over stuff like this. I kind of like how the way Craig takes this whole situation. It's like I'm just having fun with it, dude. I'm just glad to be a part of this. I'm having fun just seeing the banter go back and forth and seeing people take it so serious. So I've never ran into someone publicly. It's funny, I run into B team guys all the time in public, but I never run into new wave guys. But I don't think there's, as far as the whole team, there's as much beef as social media perceives. Like I feel like, I mean, I just went to a competition um, a month ago, and New Wave was there. Like Gary Tonin, John Denneher, all the New Wave team was there, and all the V team guys were there, and like everyone was pretty chill. There was no bullets flying anywhere, so I was like, oh, this is cool. Everyone's kind of chill, but when it comes down to it, we're on the mat. Then the beef's maybe a little bit there, but when we're off the mat, I haven't seen any real beef except between like the two top guys at the gym.
Man, and it is hilarious. Let me tell you, every time Craig Jones posts something, I'm like, oh god,
it's hilarious.
This is gold.
Yeah,
this is gold.
Yeah,
so,
I'm fortunate enough. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm fortunate enough to, like, before Craig releases these funny videos and stuff, like me and the guys, like, we get to kind of see what he's about to put out before it's to the public. So like, we'll all feel around. We're like, you're going to put that out there, and he's just like 100%. And I'm just like, this is going to break the internet. This is going to be hilarious. And so
he's going to sell DVDs. That's all he's trying to do, right?
The guy's a marketing genius. Like, it's just crazy.
So, John, you got anything else, man?
Got any advice for the new practitioners?
Yeah, take it one day at a time, I'd say. Take it one day at a time. It's real easy, especially if you're in a high-level room. It's real easy to compare yourself to someone who's been doing it for 15 years. I see a lot of new guys, they compare themselves to these world-class guys. And it's like, well, yeah, they've been training for 20 years. This is your first practice, And so to everyone who's getting into it, take it one day at a time. And the only person you should ever compare yourself to is yourself. So if you do that, you'll have a lot better experience in jiu-jitsu, and you'll learn a lot faster.
Well, Josh, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. This is a hilarious conversation. It's good to see, people making their dreams come true, moving to Austin, pursuing what they want, man. So I'm sure people will find a lot of inspiration in your story and whatnot. If people want to follow you and see your story and your journey, where can they follow you at?
I'm really big on Instagram right now. You can follow me at JDawgBJJ. That's JDAWGBJJ. And so, yeah, I'm pretty hot on Instagram. That's about it.
And if you are listening to this, he is the referee in the Nicky Ryan J-Rod wrestling.
Right.
That's who Josh is.
Yeah,
so if you're listening to this, I
was famous after that video. I actually had like more people than I thought come up to me in public. You're like, hey, you're the ref.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, wow, like people actually noticed me. And I'm actually probably going to ref Craig Jones' wrestling match coming up in the future. So be looking out for that.
There you go. Yeah, that's going to be great.
I made sure Craig's paid me a lot of money to make him win on that match. So.
I was about to say, are we going to have another scene where you're getting paid in the corner of the stage?
Yes, but a lot more than what J-Rock could pay me.
So, hey, Josh, thank you so much, man, once again for coming on the show today. It was a great conversation, a whole lot of good insight. John, you got anything else?
No, man, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. And remember, no oil checks here.
Yes.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
Peace.
Thank you.